KaraokeBooks.
The Confessions. St. Augustine of Hippo. Translated by Joseph Green Pilkington. Audiobook. Book 11. The design of his confessions being declared, he seeks from God the knowledge of the Holy Scriptures, and begins to expound the words of Genesis I concerning the creation of the world. The questions of rash disputers being refuted, what did God before he created the world? That he might the better overcome his opponents, he adds a copious disquisition concerning time. Chapter 1. By confession he desires to stimulate towards God his own love and that of his readers. 1. O Lord, since eternity is thine, art thou ignorant of the things which I say unto thee? Or seest thou at the time that which cometh to pass in time? Why, therefore, do I place before thee so many relations of things? Not surely that thou mightest know them through me, but that I may awaken my own love and that of my readers towards thee, that we may all say, Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised. I have already said, and shall say, for the love of thy love do I this. For we also pray, and yet truth says, Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. Therefore do we make known unto thee our love, in confessing unto thee our own miseries and thy mercies upon us, that thou mayest free us altogether, since thou hast begun, that we may cease to be wretched in ourselves, and that we may be blessed in thee, since thou hast called us, that we may be poor in spirit, and meek, and mourners, and hungering and athirst after righteousness, and merciful, and pure in heart, and peacemakers. Behold, I have told unto thee many things, which I could and which I would, for thou first wouldest that I should confess unto thee, the Lord my God, for thou art good, since thy mercy endureth forever. Chapter 2. He begs of God that through the Holy Scriptures he may be led to truth. 2. But when shall I suffice with the tongue of my pen to express all thy exhortations, and all thy terrors, and comforts, and guidances, whereby thou hast led me to preach thy word and to dispense thy sacrament unto thy people? And if I suffice to utter these things in order, the drops of time are dear to me. Long time have I burned to meditate in thy law, and in it to confess to thee my knowledge and ignorance, the beginning of thine enlightening, and the remains of my darkness, until infirmity be swallowed up by strength. And I would not that to aught else those hours should flow away, which I find free from the necessities of refreshing my body, and the care of my mind, and of the service which we owe to men, and which, though we owe not, even yet we pay. 3. O Lord my God, hear my prayer, and let thy mercy regard my longing, since it bums not for myself alone, but because it desires to benefit brotherly charity. And thou seest into my heart, that so it is. I would sacrifice to thee the service of my thought and tongue, and do thou give what I may offer unto thee. For, I am poor and needy, thou rich unto all that call upon thee, who free from care carest for us. Circumcise from all rashness and from all lying my inward and outward lips. Let thy scriptures be my chaste delights. Neither let me be deceived in them, nor deceive out of them. Lord, hear and pity, O Lord my God, light of the blind, and strength of the weak. Even also light of those that see, and strength of the strong, hearken unto my soul, and hear it crying, out of the depths. For unless thine ears be present in the depths also, whither shall we go? Whither shall we cry? The day is thine, and the night also is thine. At thy nod the moments flee by. Grant thereof space for our meditations amongst the hidden things of thy law, nor close it against us who knock. For not in vain hast thou willed that the obscure secret of so many pages should be written. Nor is it that those forests have not their hearts, betaking themselves therein, and ranging, and walking, and feeding, lying down, and ruminating. Perfect me, O Lord, and reveal them unto me. Behold, thy voice is my joy, thy voice surpasseth the abundance of pleasures. Give that which I love, for I do love, and this hast thou given. Abandon not thine own gifts, nor despise thy grass that thirsteth. Let me confess unto thee whatsoever I shall have found in thy books, and let me hear the voice of praise, and let me imbibe thee, and reflect on the wonderful things of thy law. Even from the beginning, wherein thou madest the heaven and the earth, unto the everlasting kingdom of thy holy city that is with thee. 4. Lord, have mercy on me and hear my desire. For I think that it is not of the earth, nor of gold and silver, and precious stones, nor gorgeous apparel, nor honors and powers, nor the pleasures of the flesh, nor necessaries for the body, and this life of our pilgrimage, all which are added to those that seek thy kingdom and thy righteousness. Behold, O Lord my God, whence is my desire? The unrighteous have told me of delights, but not such as thy law, O Lord. Behold, whence is my desire? Behold, Father, look and see, and approve, and let it be pleasing in the sight of thy mercy, that I may find grace before thee, that the secret things of thy word may be opened unto me when I knock. I beseech, by our Lord Jesus Christ, thy Son, the man of thy right hand, the Son of Man, whom thou madest strong for thyself, as thy mediator and ours, through whom thou hast sought us, although not seeking thee, but didst seek us that we might seek thee, thy word through whom thou hast made all things, and amongst them me also, thy only begotten, through whom thou hast called to adoption the believing people, and therein me also. I beseech thee through him, who sitteth at thy right hand, and maketh intercession for us, in whom are hid all treasures of wisdom and knowledge. Him do I seek in thy books. Of him did Moses write, this saith himself, this saith the truth. Chapter 3. He begins from the creation of the world, not understanding the Hebrew text. 5. Let me hear and understand how in the beginning thou didst make the heaven and the earth. Moses wrote this, he wrote and departed, passed hence from thee to thee. Nor now is he before me. For if he were I would hold him, and ask him, and would adjure him by thee that he would open unto me these things, and I would lend the ears of my body to the sounds bursting forth from his mouth. And should he speak in the Hebrew tongue, in vain would it beat on my senses, nor would aught touch my mind. But if in Latin, I should know what he said. But whence should I know whether he said what was true? But if I knew this even, should I know it from him? Verily within me, within in the chamber of my thought, truth, neither Hebrew, nor Greek, nor Latin, nor barbarian, without the organs of voice and tongue, without the sound of syllables, would say, he speaks the truth, and I, forthwith assured of it, confidently would say unto that man of thine, thou speakest the truth. As, then, I cannot inquire of him, I beseech thee, O truth, full of whom he spake truth, thee, my God, I beseech, forgive my sins. And do thou, who didst give to that thy servant to speak these things, grant to me also to understand them. Chapter 4. Heaven and earth cry out that they have been created by God. 6. Behold, the heaven and earth are, they proclaim that they were made, for they are changed and varied. Whereas whatsoever hath not been made, and yet hath being, hath nothing in it which there was not before. This is what it is to be changed and varied. They also proclaim that they made not themselves. Therefore we are, because we have been made. We were not therefore before we were, so that we could have made ourselves. And the voice of those that speak is in itself an evidence. Thou, therefore, Lord, didst make these things. Thou who art beautiful, for they are beautiful. Thou who art good, for they are good. Thou who art, for they are. Nor even so are they beautiful, nor good, nor are they, as thou their Creator art. Compared with whom they are neither beautiful, nor good, nor are at all. These things we know, thanks be to thee. And our knowledge, compared with thy knowledge, is ignorance. Chapter 5. God created the world not from any certain matter, but in his own word. 7. But how didst thou make the heaven and the earth, and what was the instrument of thy so mighty work? For it was not as a human worker fashioning body from body, according to the fancy of his mind, in somewise able to assign a form which it perceives in itself by its inner eye. And whence should he be able to do this, hadst not thou made that mind? And he assigns to it already existing, and as it were having a being, a form, as clay, or stone, or wood, or gold, or such like. And whence should these things be, hadst not thou appointed them? Thou didst make for the workman his body, thou the mind commanding the limbs, thou the matter whereof he makes anything, thou the capacity whereby he may apprehend his art, and see within what he may do without, thou the sense of his body, by which, as by an interpreter, he may from mind unto matter convey that which he doth, and report to his mind what may have been done, that it within may consult the truth, presiding over itself, whether it be well done. All these things praise thee, the Creator of all. But how dost thou make them? How, O God, didst thou make heaven and earth? Truly, neither in the heaven nor in the earth didst thou make heaven and earth, nor in the air, nor in the waters, since these also belong to the heaven and the earth. Nor in the whole world didst thou make the whole world, because there was no place wherein it could be made before it was made, that it might be. Nor didst thou hold anything in thy hand wherewith to make heaven and earth. For whence couldst thou have what thou hadst not made, whereof to make anything? For what is, save because thou art? Therefore thou didst speak and they were made, and in thy word thou madest these things. Chapter 6. He did not, however, create it by a sounding and passing word. 8. But how didst thou speak? Was it in that manner in which the voice came from the cloud, saying, This is my beloved Son? For that voice was uttered and passed away, began and ended. The syllables sounded and passed by, the second after the first, the third after the second, and thence in order, until the last after the rest, and silence after the last. Hence it is clear and plain that the motion of a creature expressed it, itself temporal, obeying thy eternal will. And these thy words formed at the time, the outer ear conveyed to the intelligent mind, whose inner ear lay attentive to thy eternal word. But it compared these words sounding in time with thy eternal word in silence, and said, It is different, very different. These words are far beneath me, nor are they, since they flee and pass away, but the word of my Lord remaineth above me forever. If, then, in sounding and fleeting words thou didst say that heaven and earth should be made, and didst thus make heaven and earth, there was already a corporeal creature before heaven and earth by whose temporal motions that voice might take its course in time. But there was nothing corporeal before heaven and earth, or if there were, certainly thou without a transitory voice hadst created that whence thou wouldest make the passing voice, by which to say that the heaven and the earth should be made. For whatsoever that were of which such a voice was made, unless it were made by thee, it could not be at all. By what word of thine was it decreed that a body might be made, whereby these words might be made? Chapter 7. By his co-eternal word he speaks, and all things are done. 9. Thou callest us, therefore, to understand the word, God with thee, God, which is spoken eternally, and by it are all things spoken eternally. For what was spoken was not finished, and another spoken until all were spoken, but all things at once and forever. For otherwise have we time and change, and not a true eternity, nor a true immortality. This I know, O my God, and give thanks. I know, I confess to thee, O Lord, and whosoever is not unthankful to certain truth, knows and blesses thee with me. We know, O Lord, we know, since in proportion as anything is not what it was, and as what it was not, in that proportion does it die and arise. Not anything, therefore, of thy word giveth place and cometh into place again, because it is truly immortal and eternal. And, therefore, unto the word co-eternal with thee, thou dost at once and forever say all that thou dost say, and whatever thou sayest shall be made, is made. Nor dost thou make otherwise than by speaking. Yet all things are not made both together and everlasting which thou mockest by speaking. Chapter 8. That word itself is the beginning of all things, in the which we are instructed as to evangelical truth. 10. Why is this, I beseech thee, O Lord my God? I see it, however, but how I shall express it, I know not, unless that everything which begins to be and ceases to be, then begins and ceases when in thy eternal reason it is known that it ought to begin or cease where nothing beginneth or ceaseth. The same as thy word, which is also the beginning, because also it speaketh unto us. Thus, in the gospel he speaketh through the flesh, and this sounded outwardly in the ears of men, that it might be believed and sought inwardly, and that it might be found in the eternal truth, where the good and only Master teacheth all his disciples. There, O Lord, I hear thy voice, the voice of one speaking unto me, since he speaketh unto us who teacheth us. But he that teacheth us not, although he speaketh, speaketh not to us. Moreover, who teacheth us, unless it be the immutable truth? For even when we are admonished through a changeable creature, we are led to the truth immutable. There we learn truly while we stand and hear him, and rejoice greatly, because of the bridegroom's voice, restoring us to that whence we are. And, therefore, the beginning, because unless it remained, there would not, where we strayed, be whither to return. But when we return from error, it is by knowing that we return. But that we may know, he teacheth us, because he is the beginning and speaketh unto us. Chapter 9. Wisdom and the beginning. 11. In this beginning, O God, hast thou made heaven and earth, in thy word, in thy Son, in thy power, in thy wisdom, in thy truth, wondrously speaking and wondrously making. Who shall comprehend? Who shall relate it? What is that which shines through me, and strikes my heart without injury, and I both shudder and burn? I shudder inasmuch as I am unlike it, and I burn inasmuch as I am like it. It is wisdom itself that shines through me, clearing my cloudiness, which again overwhelms me, fainting from it, in the darkness and amount of my punishment. For my strength is brought down in need, so that I cannot endure my blessings, until thou, O Lord, who hast been gracious to all mine iniquities, heal also all mine infirmities. Because thou shalt also redeem my life from corruption, and crown me with thy loving kindness and mercy, and shalt satisfy my desire with good things, because my youth shall be renewed like the eagles. For by hope we are saved, and through patience we await thy promises. Let him that is able hear thee discoursing within. I will with confidence cry out from thy oracle, how wonderful are thy works, O Lord, in wisdom hast thou made them all. And this wisdom is the beginning, and in that beginning hast thou made heaven and earth. Chapter 10. The rashness of those who inquire what God did before he created heaven and earth. 12. Lo, are they not full of their ancient way, who say to us, what was God doing before he made heaven and earth? For if, say they, he were unoccupied, and did nothing, why does he not forever also, and from henceforth, cease from working, as in times past he did? For if any new motion has arisen in God, and a new will, to form a creature which he had never before formed, however can that be a true eternity where there ariseth a will which was not before? For the will of God is not a creature, but before the creature, because nothing could be created unless the will of the Creator were before it. The will of God, therefore, pertaineth to his very substance. But if anything hath arisen in the substance of God which was not before, that substance is not truly called eternal. But if it was the eternal will of God that the creature should be, why was not the creature also from eternity? Chapter 11. They who ask this have not as yet known the eternity of God, which is exempt from the relation of time. 13. Those who say these things do not as yet understand thee, O thou wisdom of God, thou light of souls. Not as yet do they understand how these things be made which are made by and in thee. They even endeavor to comprehend things eternal, but as yet their heart fleeth about in the past and future motions of things, and is still wavering. Who shall hold it and fix it, that it may rest a little, and by degrees catch the glory of that ever-standing eternity? and compare it with the times which never stand, and see that it is incomparable, and that a long time cannot become long, save from the many motions that pass by, which cannot at the same instant be prolonged, but that in the eternal nothing passeth away, but that the whole is present, but no time is wholly present, and let him see that all time past is forced on by the future, and that all the future followeth from the past, and that all, both past and future, is created and issues from that which is always present. Who will hold the heart of man, that it may stand still, and see how the still-standing eternity, itself neither future nor past, uttereth the times future and past? Can my hand accomplish this, or the hand of my mouth by persuasion bring about a thing so great? Chapter 12. What God did before the creation of the world. 14. Behold, I answer to him who asks, what was God doing before he made heaven and earth? I answer not, as a certain person is reported to have done facetiously, avoiding the pressure of the question, he was preparing hell, saith he, for those who pry into mysteries. It is one thing to perceive, another to laugh, these things I answer not. For more willingly would I have answered, I know not what I know not, than that I should make him a laughing stock who asketh deep things, and gain praise as one who answereth false things. But I say that thou, our God, art the creator of every creature, and if by the term, heaven and earth, every creature is understood, I boldly say, that before God made heaven and earth, he made not anything. For if he did, what did he make unless the creature? And would that I knew whatever I desire to know to my advantage, as I know that no creature was made before any creature was made. Chapter 13. Before the times created by God, times were not. 15. But if the roving thought of any one should wander through the images of bygone time, and wonder that thou, the God Almighty, and all-creating, and all-sustaining, the architect of heaven and earth, didst for innumerable ages refrain from so great a work before thou wouldst make it, let him awake and consider that he wonders at false things. For whence could innumerable ages pass by which thou didst not make, since thou art the author and creator of all ages? Or what times should those be which were not made by thee? Or how should they pass by if they had not been? Since, therefore, thou art the creator of all times, if any time was before thou madest heaven and earth, why is it said that thou didst refrain from working? For that very time thou madest, nor could times pass by before thou madest times. But if before heaven and earth there was no time, why is it asked, what didst thou then? For there was no, then, when time was not. 16. Nor dost thou by time precede time. Else wouldest not thou precede all times. But in the excellency of an ever-present eternity, thou precedest all times past, and survivest all future times, because they are future, and when they have come they will be past, but thou art the same, and thy years shall have no end. Thy years neither go nor come, but ours both go and come, that all may come. All thy years stand at once since they do stand. Nor were they when departing excluded by coming years, because they pass not away, but all these of ours shall be when all shall cease to be. Thy years are one day, and thy day is not daily, but today, because thy today yields not with tomorrow, for neither doth it follow yesterday. Thy today is eternity. Therefore didst thou beget the co-eternal, to whom thou sightest, this day have I begotten thee. Thou hast made all time, and before all times thou art, nor in any time was there not time. Chapter 14. Neither time past nor future, but the present only, really is. 17. At no time, therefore, hadst thou not made anything, because thou hadst made time itself. And no times are co-eternal with thee, because thou remain st forever, but should these continue, they would not be times. For what is time? Who can easily and briefly explain it? Who even in thought can comprehend it, even to the pronouncing of a word concerning it? But what in speaking do we refer to more familiarly and knowingly than time? And certainly we understand when we speak of it. we understand also when we hear it spoken of by another. What, then, is time? If no one ask of me, I know. If I wish to explain to him who asks, I know not. Yet I say with confidence, that I know that if nothing passed away, there would not be past time, and if nothing were coming, there would not be future time, and if nothing were, there would not be present time. Those two times, therefore, past and future, how are they, when even the past now is not, and the future is not as yet? But should the present be always present, and should it not pass into time past, time truly it could not be, but eternity. If, then, time present, if it be time, only comes into existence because it passes into time past, how do we say that even this is, whose cause of being is that it shall not be, namely, so that we cannot truly say that time is, unless because it tends not to be? Chapter 15. There is only a moment of present time. 18. And yet we say that time is long and time is short. Nor do we speak of this save of time past and future. A long time past, for example, we call 100 years ago, in like manner a long time to come, 100 years hence. But a short time past we call, say, 10 days ago, and a short time to come, 10 days hence. But in what sense is that long or short which is not? For the past is not now, and the future is not yet. Therefore let us not say, it is long, but let us say of the past, it hath been long, and of the future, it will be long. O my Lord, my light, shall not even hear thy truth deride man? For that past time which was long, was it long when it was already past, or when it was as yet present? For then it might be long when there was that which could be long, but when past it no longer was. Wherefore that could not be long which was not at all. Let us not, therefore, say, time past hath been long. For we shall not find what may have been long, seeing that since it was past it is not. But let us say, that present time was long, because when it was present it was long. For it had not as yet passed away so as not to be, and therefore there was that which could be long. But after it passed, that ceased also to be long which ceased to be. 19. Let us therefore see, O human soul, whether present time can be long. For to thee is it given to perceive and to measure periods of time. What wilt thou reply to me? Is 100 years when present a long time? See, first, whether 100 years can be present. For if the first year of these is current, that is present, but the other 99 are future, and therefore they are not as yet. But if the second year is current, one is already past, the other present, the rest future. And thus, if we fix on any middle year of this 100 as present, those before it are past, those after it are future. Wherefore 100 years cannot be present. See at least whether that year itself which is current can be present. For if its first month be current, the rest are future. If the second, the first hath already passed, and the remainder are not yet. Therefore neither is the year which is current as a whole present, and if it is not present as a whole, then the year is not present. For 12 months make the year, of which each individual month which is current is itself present, but the rest are either past or future. Although neither is that month which is current present, but one day only. If the first, the rest being to come, if the last, the rest being past. If any of the middle, then between past and future. 20. Behold, the present time, which alone we found could be called long, is abridged to the space scarcely of one day. But let us discuss even that, for there is not one day present as a whole. For it is made up of 24 hours of night and day, whereof the first hath the rest future, the last hath them past, but any one of the intervening hath those before it past, those after it future. And that 1 hour passeth away in fleeting particles. Whatever of it hath flown away is past, whatever remaineth is future. If any portion of time be conceived which cannot now be divided into even the minutest particles of moments, this only is that which may be called present, which, however, flies so rapidly from future to past, that it cannot be extended by any delay. For if it be extended, it is divided into the past and future, but the present hath no space. Where, therefore, is the time which we may call long? Is it nature? Indeed we do not say, it is long, because it is not yet, so as to be long, but we say, it will be long. When, then, will it be? For if even then, since as yet it is future, it will not be long, because what may be long is not as yet, but it shall be long, when from the future, which as yet is not, it shall already have begun to be, and will have become present, so that there could be that which may be long. Then doth the present time cry out in the words above that it cannot be long. Chapter 16. Time can only be perceived or measured while it is passing. 21. And yet, O Lord, we perceive intervals of times, and we compare them with themselves, and we say some are longer, others shorter. We even measure by how much shorter or longer this time may be than that, and we answer, that this is double or treble, while that is but once, or only as much as that. But we measure times passing when we measure them by perceiving them. But past times, which now are not, or future times, which as yet are not, who can measure them? Unless, perchance, anyone will dare to say, that that can be measured which is not. When, therefore, time is passing, it can be perceived and measured, but when it has passed, it cannot, since it is not. Chapter 17. Nevertheless there is time past and future. 22. I ask, Father, I do not affirm. O my God, rule and guide me. Who is there who can say to me that there are not three times, as we learned when boys, and as we have taught boys, the past, present, and future, but only present, because these two are not? Or are they also? But when from future it becometh present, cometh it forth from some secret place, and when from the present it becometh past, doth it retire into anything secret? For where have they, who have foretold future things, seen these things, if as yet they are not? For that which is not cannot be seen. And they who relate things past could not relate them as true, did they not perceive them in their mind. Which things, if they were not, they could in no wise be discerned. There are therefore things both future and past. Chapter 18. Past and future times cannot be thought of but as present. 23. Suffer me, O Lord, to seek further. O my hope, let not my purpose be confounded. For if there are times past and future, I desire to know where they are. But if as yet I do not succeed, I still know, wherever they are, that they are not there as future or past, but as present. For if there also they be future, they are not as yet there, if even there they be past, they are no longer there. Wheresoever, therefore, they are, whatsoever they are only so as present. Although past things are related as true, they are drawn out from the memory, not the things themselves, which have passed, but the words conceived from the images of the things which they have formed in the mind as footprints in their passage through the senses. My childhood, indeed, which no longer is in time past, which now is not, but when I call to mind its image, and speak of it, I behold it in the present, because it is as yet in my memory. Whether there be a like cause of foretelling future things, that of things which as yet are not the images may be perceived as already existing, I confess, my God, I know not. This certainly I know, that we generally think before on our future actions, and that this premeditation is present, but that the action whereon we premeditate is not yet, because it is future, which when we shall have entered upon, and have begun to do that which we were premeditating, then shall that action be, because then it is not future, but present. 24. In whatever manner, therefore, this secret preconception of future things may be, nothing can be seen, save what is. But what now is not future, but present. When, therefore, they say that things future are seen, it is not themselves, which as yet are not, that is, which are future, but their causes or their signs perhaps are seen, the which already are. Therefore, to those already beholding them, they are not future, but present, from which future things conceived in the mind are foretold. Which conceptions again now are, and they who foretell those things behold these conceptions present before them. Let now so multitudinous a variety of things afford me some example. I behold daybreak, I foretell that the sun is about to rise. That which I behold is present. What I foretell is future, not that the sun is future, which already is, but his rising, which is not yet. Yet even its rising I could not predict unless I had an image of it in my mind, as now I have while I speak. But that dawn which I see in the sky is not the rising of the sun, although it may go before it, nor that imagination in my mind, which two are seen as present, that the other which is future may be foretold. Future things, therefore, are not as yet, and if they are not as yet, they are not. And if they are not, they cannot be seen at all, but they can be foretold from things present which now are, and are seen. Chapter 19. We are ignorant in what manner God teaches future things. 25. Thou, therefore, ruler of thy creatures, what is the method by which thou teachest souls those things which are future? For thou hast taught thy prophets. What is that way by which thou, to whom nothing is future, dost teach future things? Or rather of future things dost teach present? For what is not, of a certainty cannot be taught. Too far is this way from my view, it is too mighty for me, I cannot attain unto it, but by thee I shall be enabled, when thou shalt have granted it, sweet light of my hidden eyes. Chapter 20. In what manner time may properly be designated. 26. But what now is manifest and clear is, that neither are there future nor past things. Nor is it fitly said, there are three times, past, present and future, but perchance it might be fitly said, there are three times, a present of things past, a present of things present, and a present of things future. For these three do somehow exist in the soul, and otherwise I see them not. Present of things past, memory. Present of things present, sight. Present of things future, expectation. If of these things we are permitted to speak, I see three times, and I grant there are three. It may also be said, there are three times, past, present and future, as usage falsely has it. See, I trouble not, nor gainsay, nor reprove, provided always that which is said may be understood, that neither the future, nor that which is past, now is. For there are but few things which we speak properly, many things improperly, but what we may wish to say is understood. Chapter 21. How time may be measured. 27. I have just now said, then, that we measure times as they pass, that we may be able to say that this time is twice as much as that one, or that this is only as much as that, and so of any other of the parts of time which we are able to tell by measuring. Wherefore, as I said, we measure times as they pass. And if any one should ask me, whence dost thou know? I can answer, I know, because we measure. Nor can we measure things that are not, and things past and future are not. But how do we measure present time, since it hath not space? It is measured while it passeth, but when it shall have passed, it is not measured, for there will not be aught that can be measured. But whence, in what way, and whither doth it pass while it is being measured? Whence, but from the future? Which way, save through the present? Whither, but into the past? From that, therefore, which as yet is not, through that which hath no space, into that which now is not. But what do we measure, unless time in some space? For we say not single, and double, and triple, and equal, or in any other way in which we speak of time, unless with respect to the spaces of times. In what space, then, do we measure passing time? Is it in the future, whence it passeth over? But what yet we measure not, is not. Or is it in the present, by which it passeth? But no space, we do not measure. Or in the past, whither it passeth? But that which is not now, we measure not. Chapter 22. He prays God that he would explain this most entangled enigma. 28. My soul yearns to know this most entangled enigma. Forbear to shut up. O Lord my God, good Father, through Christ I beseech thee, forbear to shut up these things, both usual and hidden, from my desire, that it may be hindered from penetrating them. But let them dawn through thy enlightening mercy, O Lord. Of whom shall I inquire concerning these things? And to whom shall I with more advantage confess my ignorance than to thee, to whom these my studies, so vehemently kindled towards thy scriptures, are not troublesome? Give that which I love, for I do love, and this hast thou given me. Give, Father, who truly knowest to give good gifts unto thy children. Give, since I have undertaken to know, and trouble is before me until thou dost open it. Through Christ, I beseech thee, in his name, Holy of Holies, let no man interrupt me. For I believed, and therefore do I speak. This is my hope. For this do I live, that I may contemplate the delights of the Lord. Behold, thou hast made my days old, and they pass away, and in what manner I know not. And we speak as to time and time, times and times. How long is the time since he said this? How long the time since he did this? And, how long the time since I saw that? And, this syllable hath double the time of that single short syllable. These words we speak, and these we hear, and we are understood, and we understand. They are most manifest and most usual, and the same things again lie hid too deeply, and the discovery of them is new. Chapter 23. That time is a certain extension. 29. I have heard from a learned man that the motions of the sun, moon, and stars constituted time, and I assented not. For why should not rather the motions of all bodies be time? What if the lights of heaven should cease, and a potter's wheel run round? Would there be no time by which we might measure those revolutions, and say either that it turned with equal pauses, or, if it were moved at one time more slowly, at another more quickly, that some revolutions were longer, others less so? Or while we were saying this, should we not also be speaking in time? Or should there in our words be some syllables long, others short, but because those sounded in a longer time, these in a shorter? God grant to men to see in a small thing ideas common to things great and small. Both the stars and luminaries of heaven are, for signs and for seasons, and for days and years. No doubt they are, but neither should I say that the circuit of that wooden wheel was a day, nor yet should he say that therefore there was no time. 30. I desire to know the power and nature of time, by which we measure the motions of bodies, and say, for example, that this motion is twice as long as that. For, I ask, since day declares not the stay only of the sun upon the earth, according to which day is one thing, night another, but also its entire circuit from east even to east, according to which we say, so many days have passed, the nights being included when we say, so many days, and their spaces not counted apart, since, then, the day is finished by the motion of the sun, and by his circuit from east to east. I ask, whether the motion itself is the day, or the period in which that motion is completed, or both. For if the first be the day, then would there be a day although the sun should finish that course in so small a space of time as an hour. If the second, then that would not be a day if from one sunrise to another there were but so short a period as an hour, but the sun must go round 24 times to complete a day. If both, neither could that be called a day if the sun should run his entire round in the space of an hour. Nor that, if, while the sun stood still, so much time should pass as the sun is accustomed to accomplish his whole course in from morning to morning. I shall not therefore now ask, what that is which is called day, but what time is, by which we, measuring the circuit of the sun, should say that it was accomplished in half the space of time it was wont, if it had been completed in so small a space as 12 hours, and comparing both times, we should call that single, this double time, although the sun should run his course from east to east sometimes in that single, sometimes in that double time. Let no man then tell me that the motions of the heavenly bodies are times, because, when at the prayer of one the sun stood still in order that he might achieve his victorious battle, the sun stood still, but time went on. For in such space of time as was sufficient was that battle fought and ended. I see that time, then, is a certain extension. But do I see it, or do I seem to see it? Thou, O light and truth, wilt show me. Chapter 24. That time is not a motion of a body which we measure by time. 31. Dost thou command that I should assent, if any one should say that time is the motion of a body? Thou dost not command me. For I hear that no body is moved but in time. This thou sayest, but that the very motion of a body is time, I hear not. Thou sayest it not. For when a body is moved, I by time measure how long it may be moving from the time in which it began to be moved till it left off. And if I saw not whence it began, and it continued to be moved, so that I see not when it leaves off, I cannot measure unless, perchance, from the time I began until I cease to see. But if I look long, I only proclaim that the time is long, but not how long it may be, because when we say, how long, we speak by comparison, as, this is as long as that, or, this is double as long as that, or any other thing of the kind. But if we were able to note down the distances of places whence and whither cometh the body which is moved, or its parts, if it moved as in a wheel, we can say in how much time the motion of the body or its part, from this place unto that, was performed. Since, then, the motion of a body is one thing, that by which we measure how long it is another, who cannot see which of these is rather to be called time? For, although a body be sometimes moved, sometimes stands still, we measure not its motion only, but also its standing still, by time. And we say, it stood still as much as it moved, or, it stood still twice or thrice as long as it moved. And if any other space which our measuring hath either determined or imagined, more or less, as we are accustomed to say. Time, therefore, is not the motion of a body. Chapter 25. He calls on God to enlighten his mind. 32. And I confess unto thee, O Lord, that I am as yet ignorant as to what time is, and again I confess unto thee, O Lord, that I know that I speak these things in time, and that I have already long spoken of time, and that very long is not long save by the stay of time. How, then, know I this, when I know not what time is? Or is it, perchance, that I know not in what wise I may express what I know? Alas for me, that I do not at least know the extent of my own ignorance. Behold, O my God, before thee I lie not. As I speak, so is my heart. Thou shalt light my candle. Thou, O Lord my God, wilt enlighten my darkness. Chapter 26. We measure longer events by shorter in time. 33. Doth not my soul pour out unto thee truly in confession that I do measure times? But do I thus measure, O my God, and know not what I measure? I measure the motion of a body by time, and the time itself do I not measure? But, in truth, could I measure the motion of a body, how long it is, and how long it is in coming from this place to that, unless I should measure the time in which it is moved? How, therefore, do I measure this very time itself? Or do we by a shorter time measure a longer, as by the space of a cubit the space of a crossbeam? For thus, indeed, we seem by the space of a short syllable to measure the space of a long syllable, and to say that this is double. Thus we measure the spaces of stanzas by the spaces of the verses, and the spaces of the verses by the spaces of the feet, and the spaces of the feet by the spaces of the syllables, and the spaces of long by the spaces of short syllables. Not measuring by pages, for in that manner we measure spaces, not times, but when in uttering the words they pass by, and we say, it is a long stanza because it is made up of so many verses. Long verses, because they consist of so many feet. Long feet, because they are prolonged by so many syllables. A long syllable, because double a short one. But neither thus is any certain measure of time obtained, since it is possible that a shorter verse, if it be pronounced more fully, may take up more time than a longer one, if pronounced more hurriedly. Thus for a stanzas, thus for a foot, thus for a syllable. Whence it appeared to me that time is nothing else than protraction, but of what I know not. It is wonderful to me, if it be not of the mind itself. For what do I measure, I beseech thee, O my God, even when I say either indefinitely, this time is longer than that, or even definitely, this is double that. That I measure time, I know. But I measure not the future, for it is not yet. Nor do I measure the present, because it is extended by no space. Nor do I measure the past, because it no longer is. What, therefore, do I measure? Is it times passing, not past? For thus had I said. Chapter 27. Times are measured in proportion as they pass by. 34. Persevere, O my mind, and give earnest heed. OD is our helper, he made us, and not we ourselves. Give heed, where truth dawns. Lo, suppose the voice of a body begins to sound, and does sound, and sounds on, and lo! It ceases, it is now silence, and that voice is past and is no longer a voice. It was future before it sounded, and could not be measured, because as yet it was not, and now it cannot, because it no longer is. Then, therefore, while it was sounding, it might, because there was then that which might be measured. But even then it did not stand still, for it was going and passing away. Could it, then, on that account be measured the more? For, while passing, it was being extended into some space of time, in which it might be measured, since the present hath no space. If, therefore, then it might be measured, lo! Suppose another voice hath begun to sound, and still soundeth, in a continued tenor without any interruption, we can measure it while it is sounding. For when it shall have ceased to sound, it will be already past, and there will not be that which can be measured. Let us measure it truly, and let us say how much it is. But as yet it sounds, nor can it be measured, save from that instant in which it began to sound, even to the end in which it left off. For the interval itself we measure from some beginning unto some end. On which account, a voice which is not yet ended cannot be measured, so that it may be said how long or how short it may be. Nor can it be said to be equal to another, or single or double in respect of it, or the like. But when it is ended, it no longer is. In what manner, therefore, may it be measured? And yet we measure times, still not those which as yet are not, nor those which no longer are, nor those which are protracted by some delay, nor those which have no limits. We, therefore, measure neither future times, nor past, nor present, nor those passing by, and yet we do measure times. 35. Deus Creator Omnium. This verse of 8 syllables alternates between short and long syllables. The 4 short, then, the first, third, fifth and seventh, are single in respect of the 4 long, the second, fourth, sixth, and eighth. Each of these hath a double time to every one of those. I pronounce them, report on them, and thus it is, as is perceived by common sense. By common sense, then, I measure a long by a short syllable, and I find that it has twice as much. But when one sounds after another, if the former be short the latter long, how shall I hold the short one, and how measuring shall I apply it to the long, so that I may find out that this has twice as much, when indeed the long does not begin to sound unless the short leaves off sounding? That very long one I measure not as present, since I measure it not save when ended. But its ending is its passing away. What, then, is it that I can measure? Where is the short syllable by which I measure? Where is the long one which I measure? Both have sounded, have flown, have passed away, and are no longer, and still I measure, and I confidently answer, so far as is trusted to a practiced sense, that as to space of time this syllable is single, that double. Nor could I do this, unless because they have passed, and are ended. Therefore do I not measure themselves, which now are not, but something in my memory, which remains fixed. 36. In thee, O my mind, I measure times. Do not overwhelm me with thy clamor. That is, do not overwhelm thyself with the multitude of thy impressions. In thee, I say, I measure times, the impression which things as they pass by make on thee, and which, when they have passed by, remains, that I measure as time present, not those things which have passed by, that the impression should be made. This I measure when I measure times. Either, then, these are times, or I do not measure times. What when we measure silence, and say that this silence hath lasted as long as that voice lasts? Do we not extend our thought to the measure of a voice, as if it sounded, so that we may be able to declare something concerning the intervals of silence in a given space of time? For when both the voice and tongue are still, we go over in thought poems and verses, and any discourse, or dimensions of motions, and declare concerning the spaces of times, how much this may be in respect of that, not otherwise than if uttering them we should pronounce them. Should any one wish to utter a lengthened sound, and had with forethought determined how long it should be, that man hath in silence verily gone through a space of time, and, committing it to memory, he begins to utter that speech, which sounds until it be extended to the end proposed. Truly it hath sounded, and will sound. For what of it is already finished hath verily sounded, but what remains will sound, and thus does it pass on, until the present intention carry over the future into the past increasing by the diminution of the future, until, by the consumption of the future, all be past. Chapter 28. Time in the human mind, which expects, considers, and remembers. 37. But how is that future diminished or consumed which as yet is not? Or how doth the past, which is no longer, increase, unless in the mind which enacteth this there are three things done? For it both expects, and considers, and remembers, that which it expecteth, through that which it considereth, may pass into that which it remembereth. Who, therefore, denieth that future things as yet are not? But yet there is already in the mind the expectation of things future. And who denies that past things are now no longer? But, however, there is still in the mind the memory of things past. And who denies that time present wants space, because it passeth away in a moment? But yet our consideration endereth, through which that which may be present may proceed to become absent. Future time, which is not therefore long, but a long future is a long expectation of the future. Nor is time past, which is now no longer long, but a long past is a long memory of the past. 38. I am about to repeat a psalm that I know. Before I begin, my attention is extended to the whole, but when I have begun, as much of it as becomes past by my saying it is extended in my memory. And the life of this action of mine is divided between my memory, on account of what I have repeated, and my expectation, on account of what I am about to repeat. Yet my consideration is present with me, through which that which was future may be carried over so that it may become past. Which the more it is done and repeated, by so much, expectation being shortened, the memory is enlarged, until the whole expectation be exhausted, when that whole action being ended shall have passed into memory. And what takes place in the entire psalm, takes place also in each individual part of it, and in each individual syllable. This holds in the longer action, of which that psalm is perchance a portion. The same holds in the whole life of man, of which all the actions of man are parts. The same holds in the whole age of the sons of men, of which all the lives of men are parts. Chapter 29. That human life is a distraction, but that through the mercy of God he was intent on the prize of his heavenly calling. 39. But, because thy loving kindness is better than life, behold, my life is but a distraction, and thy right hand upheld me in my Lord, the Son of Man, the mediator between thee, the one, and us the many, in many distractions amid many things, that through him I may apprehend in whom I have been apprehended, and may be recollected from my old days, following the one, forgetting the things that are past, and not distracted, but drawn on, not to those things which shall be and shall pass away, but to those things which are before, not distractedly, but intently, I follow on for the prize of my heavenly calling, where I may hear the voice of thy praise, and contemplate thy delights, neither coming nor passing away. But now are my years spent in mourning. And thou, O Lord, art my comfort, my Father everlasting. But I have been divided amid times, the order of which I know not, and my thoughts, even the inmost bowels of my soul, are mangled with tumultuous varieties, until I flow together unto thee, purged and molten in the fire of thy love. Chapter 30. Again he refutes the empty question, what did God before the creation of the world? 40. And I will be immovable, and fixed in thee, in my mold, thy truth. Nor will I endure the questions of men, who by a penal disease thirst for more than they can hold, and say, what did God make before he made heaven and earth? Or, how came it into his mind to make anything, when he never before made anything? Grant to them, O Lord, to think well what they say, and to see that where there is no time, they cannot say, never. What, therefore, he has said, never to have made, what else is it but to say, that in no time was it made? Let them therefore see that there could be no time without a created being, and let them cease to speak that vanity. Let them also be extended unto those things which are before, and understand that thou, the eternal creator of all times, art before all times, and that no times are co-eternal with thee, nor any creature, even if there be any creature beyond all times. Chapter 31. How the knowledge of God differs from that of man. 41. O Lord my God, what is that secret place of thy mystery, and how far thence have the consequences of my transgressions cast me? Heal my eyes, that I may enjoy thy light. Surely, if there be a mind, so greatly abounding in knowledge and foreknowledge, to which all things past and future are so known as one psalm is well known to me, that mind is exceedingly wonderful, and very astonishing. Because whatever is so past, and whatever is to come of after ages, is no more concealed from him than was it hidden from me when singing that psalm. What and how much of it had been sung from the beginning, what and how much remained unto the end. But far be it that thou, the creator of the universe, the creator of souls and bodies, far be it that thou shouldest know all things future and past. Far, far more wonderfully, and far more mysteriously, thou knowest them. For it is not as the feelings of one singing known things, or hearing a known song, are, through expectation of future words, and in remembrance of those that are past, varied, and his senses divided, that anything happeneth unto thee, unchangeably eternal, that is, the truly eternal creator of minds. As, then, thou in the beginning knewest the heaven and the earth without any change of thy knowledge, so in the beginning didst thou make heaven and earth without any distraction of thy action. Let him who understandeth confess unto thee, and let him who understandeth not, confess unto thee. Oh, how exalted art thou, and yet the humble in heart are thy dwelling place. For thou raisest up those that are bowed down, and they whose exaltation thou art fall not.
KaraokeBooks.